With the current patch, a single comp stopped being a Reddit meme and became a prominent threat in the meta. My name is Boris and today we'll be looking at the Lulu reroll comp, first taking notes on the comp and then jumping in game with a pro. We are ideally playing this on a Serpent, Mountain or Medallion constellations, and while Lulu's ability is going to be changing depending on the constellation, there are only a couple of things we need to know. First, on the Medallion, she's going to be working as an econ engine, similar to that Draven from the last set, where upon casting 6 times she's going to be generating a gold, and this is going to be increasing, but at a reduced rate. If you are win streaking, she's definitely going to be able to print you a lot of gold. While on the Mountain constellation, her ability is able to stun, therefore if you get your hands on the Horizon focus, you can just hard force this comp on the Mountain, and she's going to be easily becoming an S++ tier if you're able to hit. For our game plan, we are ideally playing from a tempo spot, as this comp is not super stable on stage 4 with only 2 stars. But if we are having to play for that loss streak, we have 2 ways we can approach it. First is to level on 6 on 3-2 and stabilize our board around Milio 2 and one of the upgraded 2 cost tanks. There are also some variations and explorations going around as Milio being your primary carry, since due to the buffs he received this patch, he's very strong. Otherwise, the default level 7 loss strategy is to 8 loss, level to 7 on 3-5 and find your 2 stars there. You want to be securing that loss streak, as you are really gaining gold only when you're on 6 loss. Then we are going to be staying at level 7 until we find our 2 carries and at least a single tank. Jax, Pantheon, Maokai all do fine. Pantheon might be the least contested one, while Maokai is going to be the stronger version. And push levels on level 8, we are generally adding Rast, while if we are able to make it to 9, we can slot in any of the Aura 5 costs. Shen and Morgana work nicely. Other things to note regarding the comp, our augment priority is going to be the standard one where we take econ over items, and then if we find everything rounded out, we are fine to be taking combat. Remember, these 3 cost reroll comps are very expensive. We are fine to also be making Void Staff, as that's a generally decent item and Milio can apply it quite well. Even though we have that Aatrox, that buff is going to be only coming in 6 seconds into the fight, and it's nice to have that upfront shred already. And regarding the positioning, if you find that you have a very strong frontline or the enemies might be lacking a little bit of a damage, you're completely fine to be positioning Lulu on the same side as the enemy carries, since her ability is able to chip and hopefully able to hit their backline a little bit before, as long as your frontliner is able to stall long enough. On the emblem front, there are no particularly great emblems and I would not be prioritizing them through my augment selection, but if we get our hands on a free one, we are fine to be making the Vanguard emblem, which allows us to play Nunu and then drop TEF for another Fate Weaver. We are fine to be playing around also Brawler, giving us 4 Brawler on 8. Similar goes for Bastion. Timebreaker is nice for early econ and a little bit more combat power, and Nova is just going to be some combat power you can toss on. For our itemization, we want Lulu to be spam casting and hitting as hard as possible. That is achieved through Jeweled Gauntlets and Double Nashers build. If you're unable to make Double Nashers, any form of another mana item is going to be sufficient. Milio works similar, but you already have that built-in crit through the JG. Therefore, Shojin and Deathcap are quite nice, and then you can round it out with some kind of utility or more damage item, or simply also go for Double Nashers if you're able to get your hands on so many replicant components. For our tanks, we are fine to be holding some utility there, such as Sunfire. Otherwise, Warmox is quite nice to have a tank item in the current meta, and Crown Guard and WoW are also amazing. For our god selection, Varus is nice since we're playing in a reroll comp, and his boon is absolutely busted, giving you so much effective HP. Kale for those extra items is nice, especially going to help if you're tempoing. Yasuo can have some nasty hexes. You can get the stun for the Storm Hex, that's very nice on the Lulu. And Echo can simply provide you a frontline anomaly. As usual, this cheat sheet is going to be available in the link down below. And now let's jump in the game with a pro. For our VOD review, we're going to be jumping in game with Dankmemes. Our gods for the game are going to be Varus and Evelyn. And we are going to be playing on the LeBlanc encounter, which gives the all augments on stage 3 open up possibilities for some absolutely nasty combos. Something like Cosmic Restart Mission is an incredible one. But for our game right now, we have gotten a Lulu and a Kai'Sa Orb. Obviously, Lulu Orb being one of the better ways to be playing into this comp, but we should not regard already the direction in our mind. We should be considering all the possibilities, and this Kai'Sa Orb is extremely strong as she can do a lot of things. in stage 2, even without items or with a very few items. Also very strong on stage 3 and at 2-star, actually quite stable going there. She's the prominent way how you get in those Dark Star Flex comps. Picking up the Jackson, we noted that the constellation is the Serpent, so he perhaps in his mind he's already considering playing that. We do get a Shojin, which is going to be generally a little bit stronger of an item for that Kaisa, but we are slotting in our Serpent units already here for our Stargazers. And it seems that he's wanting to be taking into the direction. Now, Kais is obviously the better way to be capping that Primordian board as well, but we can see there's already a player right here as we queue into them. Also, Kais and 3 Primordian, so we're going to be probably steering away and getting an open line for ourselves right now, locking that in. Unfortunately, not able to make 10 as we're just a single gold short, I believe. No, we're a couple of gold short, alright. But still, playing this encounter without an augment on 2-1 is a very weird feeling. And generally it's going to be punishing you quite heavily if you do not have a clear direction or if your opener is not great. You are missing out on these heavily direction inclining augments, and players who are going to be having a very strong win streak boards with slams are going to be able to pull ahead in terms sometimes in economy. They simply just have to be figuring out their direction from there. Able to find a Poppy too, so that's going to increase our board power quite well, and now we should be having some form of a decent board already, I would assume, but have to see if we can contest some of the other players contesting that 5 win streak right now. But seems to be some players are going to be going more into the open direction. Perhaps they're evaluating that that's an easier way to be making those econ thresholds and making up for the lack of an econ augment on 2-1. As that's generally what you want to be taking if your board is on the weaker side, taking that econ augment and looking to spike your board. Now he's going to be pulling up the stats and checking what items are going to be going for. Now this generally the Varus boons are not that strong, but this one is very nice. Since we already only have a single 3 cost, and that's a 3 cost that we won, we're definitely going to be able to rip that. Evelyn is on the other hand sacrificing Tactician's health when you are not playing from the spots ahead is going to be quite tricky, especially for these reroll comps, since they can fall off on stage 4 so hard. We can probably make use of another cloak, so simply taking a pair here is going to be quite neat. Picking up a replicator in form of a Lissandra right here, that could be a potential level 5 slot in for ourselves. Otherwise, not going to be probably too much going on. We are scouting around the lobby. See that there seems to be more, perhaps a Stargazer player, the Serpent constellation being very good also for the Stargazer reroll in the form of a TF. And this seems to be playing perhaps more into that. It's hard to figure out. The QSSS generally would be leading into some form of a Belvet or the Marauder line. Not too big of a fan of her on the Riven. But they are simply looking to be playing the strongest board, considering that as a potential cost contest. Now going for a Maokai, we find a Maokai to be able to pick up, and now we are fully mapping out our board right away. Pretty much locked in our line already. And it seems like we might end up on a mixed streak. This Teemo one shouldn't be doing that too much, so if we pick up a win here, we are in a little bit of a mixed streak situation. So recon situation is not going to be in a great spot, but this spike that Nasty Bar can. No, this Teemo, even though it's a single Teemo, they simply have more of frontline nutrition. We only have a mana item for this Lulu. We can see this Lulu, she's able to put a decent job, but it seems that she does need some form of a secondary tag along without items, at least on the stage 2 to be successful. Talon 1, not exactly that. Finding a very nice orb for our 2 costs, already running out some pairs, and now we're going to be having 3 eye augments back to back. Looking at the first one, Glass Cannon is a generally decent strong combat augment into this comp. Side effects, I believe Maokai has some healing, so there is with the Nova proc, this is going to be quite decent. Plot armor, we do have Bastions, but Bastions might not be a primary tank. If Bastions are not a primary tank, this is decent, but we already have the Bastion buff on our team, so it's going to lose a little bit of value in that front. We would ideally be seeking for an econ augment into this position, and exclusive customization is nice since it's going to be also able to dip into that item category more. Mace's Will is alright as well. We do not have an open glove at the moment for our jeweled gauntlet, and that would round out your crit a little bit more. Is he really considering Glass Cannon as a strong of an option over any form of econ? No, I would assume that we are simply looking for an econ augment first to secure that. Second one, decent frontline option, but we do need that gold right away at this kind of a spot. Able to level to 5 right now and simply slot in the replicator of Pantheon. Did not hit exactly neither the Jewel Gauntlet or the Nashers, I think, and so we're going to be going with the Death Cap. That's going to be decent, providing a little bit more for ourselves. Fighting a single tier, so now we could be opting to go for that Void Staff if we wanted to. Or he's going to be valuing a frontline item first. Seems to be going for that Void Staff, just getting 3 item carry on stage 3 so we can start killing off some of the units. And again, as mentioned, it is quite fine to be making that even though you're going to be running Aatrox. Could be leading more into the silver augment coming up right now. Definitely could be leading more into this cognitive tax, just gaining 12 gold and 3 gold in form of XP. Branching out, again, the emblems are not that great into this comp, but we could be valuing this as a potential extra item. Damify is something that we're not going for. Our board is quite expensive already, and that would absolutely nuke our econ situation. Healing orbs would be more sufficient for the solo frontline or melee comps. Rolling for days is probably the best econ option we could be finding here, so we're going to be valuing that higher. And the restart mission if we wanted to completely pivot our game plan, but again, our board is quite expensive. It was going to be quite a bit of an investment. I was surprised that he did not default. He defaulted the Damify first. Obviously going to be a very strong augment if you're able to play around it and push tempo. But we can see we leveled to 6 and we're now going to be looking to try to stabilize our board from this kind of a spot. We are on these pairs, so we're definitely completely allowed to be rolling. Unfortunately, did not find our Lulu 2 or Milio 2, even though we weren't being on that many pairs, but we managed to upgrade our frontline units, so let's hope that that's sufficient for ourselves since we have those 3 items on the Lulu. Playing into a Cosmic Restart board, branching out right there, already 3 emblems in the bag, 4 in 2 rounds for this player. Unfortunately, they are not exactly in the spot to be playing for that Darkstar Flex, since you will be wanting to sacrifice lives on stage 4 for that. Bronze for life is actually not that bad in this comp, since any comp that you run in Rust you can be using it. Earth's Gambit is something that I would not be taking, and slamming would be double dipping an econ, and not exactly in the fashion that we're wanting to be looking for. However, since we opted to go for those rolls already, could be considering even taking more econ. Serpent is more of a combat power buff for ourselves. So let's see what he's going to opting. It seems that he might be defaulting the bronze for life right now. I would believe that to be the strongest option if you're looking out for. Otherwise, items in the Discriminate Killer could not be bad, especially since the Lulu is able to do chip damage. This is going to have that damage amp extra on the backline. Just do not be exactly taking this into the medallion, as in the medallion we already get a lot of damage amp from our trait when we hit. But it seems like he's going to be healing orbs. He's going to be that's an interesting choice for ourselves. Perhaps he's valuing that the weaker part of this comp is going to be the front line, therefore simply being able to funnel more into them is going to be worthwhile. And explosive growth, again, not the econ augment, playing into exactly what we are looking for our game plan would be going to be... This would be proccing already, but still in 4-1. That's a little slow, but we might have to delay it anyhow. Simply wanting to be strong on this stage, since we sent it down and we have these frontline upgrades. We want to be making our gold back now for the rolling that we made done into this stage, and we were able to already starting to do so. Ideally, we're able to finish off this on a 4 streak, and then then we should be quite decent and hopefully able to natural one of these upgrades. I mean, all right, gain another. You can be hitting this, okay, that's fine, and hope this has the possibility of hitting the Maokai right away, but hopefully this becomes a Lulu, and we can definitely be using another bow right now. So they just get double of the same boon, and that's going to be fine. Otherwise, you would be looking for a lesser duplicator, right? But let's see if his Dankmemes is able to high roll that one, and he is, and that's going to make definitely quite a stable board for ourselves. Already on 6 copies of Jax, so if there's any Feast of Fate reroll player in the lobby, they're going to be quite upset right now. Also 5 copies on the Pantheon. We can see that we are holding on to all of these possibilities for the tank, as generally either one of them is going to be completely fine for yourselves. And if you're able to go for multiple, that's just an added bonus for yourselves. And now, since a lot of players seem to be taking it slow, these reroll players are not rolling super aggressively, we are able to pick up these fights since they simply do not have that much damage, and we are already on 8 copies of the Jax, so it seems that Jax is going to be our primary carry into this game. Still a very strong tank in a meta despite a couple of nerfs he has received into what seems to be... Well, it seems to be playing around Animal, but they are not exactly in the highest amount of stacks. So I wonder what their game plan is. Seem to just gain 35 right now, so there's going to be quite a while if they're able to make it to a 300 cash out, which is going to make it worthwhile. Might just have to settle for a lesser one of permanent pivot and another form of a comp. Other than, I would assume that we might be considering Urgot right there. Now we are probably going to be leveling to 7 next turn, and we have secured ourselves also a melee or 2. And we get another Lulu drop, so we have been quite lucky in these pure drops that we have gotten, but the R item situation is not the absolute most wonderful one. We have not found we haven't found a natural rod at all. So we're going to be slamming that Nasher onto that Milio for now, since we has that infinite crit from Fate. We were going to be benefiting from it more than the Lulu at the moment. Very slow level 7, going only on 4-2. That's the cost we're paying for holding onto these all the extra units and rolling onto the previous round. Unfortunately, we do queue into a Victor player who was at level 7. Could have been a level diff right here if we had that little bit of extra durability on frontline through the bastions. And that's going to break our streak, going to have to pay for that, but that's fine. Able to 6 Lulus, 6 Pantheons, sending it a little bit here, but we have that HP lead secured from the wins in the previous round, so it's quite we are quite decent of a spot. This is why I also like the rolling on stage 3-2 strategy. The stage 3 damage is 6 base damage, and you're generally going to be losing by about 3 to 4 units, so that's another 10 damage. So you can expect, if you're losing the first 3 fights, you're losing 30 HP, which is pretty much the same, or if not even more, than you would be full losing on stage 2. So the stage 3 is definitely able to chip in at you hard, and then if you screw up your roll down turn on 3-5, you are in an extremely bad position. Well, on 3-2 you have a little bit more leeway, you're able to pick up a couple of rounds, and if you're able to squeeze out 3 wins onto that stage 3, that's going to be giving you essentially an extra life on stage 4. As well as alleviate some of that pressure, allowing you to accumulate a little bit more gold later on. Especially on a medallion constellation, Lulu is going to be able to make that gold back for you. Our last gold selection, we have already aligned ourselves with Varus. Now, if we wanted to delay, actually the extra gold from the Evelyn is a little bit tempting. We do not have exactly a 4 cost, so this would become a 7 gold, and we can make a use of a glove, right? I don't think we have an open glove, so having the glove right there for a jewel gauntlet would be quite nice. But that does probably mean that we are going to be sacking the next couple of fights. Get a Lulu right there. So now that with the extra little bit of gold influx, we should be quite good to be hitting right after our god selection. Just going to be picking out, sorting out most likely this jewel gauntlet right there. And then anything that we might be missing, we have an opened cloak on our tank, so probably going to be finishing off that. Into a Primordial reroll player, expecting to probably lose this fight, but as long as we're able to kill a sufficient amount of units, it should be still quite healthy. I would expect us to be, if we lose in around 33 lives or so. No, this should be even more. We should be around 30-ish, since the base damage here on the stage is going to be 8. See that there's some kind of rogue reflex going on around, but on Darkstar. The Karma, we can see that not the Karma, but the Kaisa has become a very prominent unit in the meta, as a lot of players have caught on with her strength, but now into a Teemo reroll player with a Twin Guardians. This Leona is going to be absolutely nasty, and we are on the same side as the Stone Plate for her. So let's see if you're able to did you see that the chip damage right here is still able to take down some frontal backline units, and almost even takes down that Teemo. If perhaps we had been on the same side, we might have been able to take him out already there. Did see a rod there, but not exactly the combination of other items we wanted. This is going to be quite sufficient for ourselves, so now we're going to be sending it already on 6 Maokais. That's going to be giving up an Emilio for now, as we are getting bench locked. Able to finally find the Jax 3. Had to give up on the Pantheon from before as well. Now we find the Jax 3, the Maokai 3, and we have the Lulu 3 online, but unfortunately does not seem that we're going to be able to be playing around the Emilio duo carry into this point, but Since the game is already so far advanced, we cannot be longer sitting here on level 7, rolling even further. We'll have to be pushing the levels and adding in this Ras that we have right here. Into what seems to be a Darkstar flex without a Darkstar emblem from the Ramos Pissing guy. Now, we can see that this comp is quite good, but it seems that a lot of it is some way enabled through him having this Damify right here. In a comp that generally lacks a little bit of a stall and simply wants to go for a burst. When you're lacking damage, you having the stall through the Damify is quite good. And see, yeah, see going for that. Is that a 6 Darkstar Kaiser reroll variation? But I will have to take another glance at it. There have been some rumors of playing around the Kaiser 3, obviously as round as well as with 6 Darkstar. But you might have a little bit troubles of getting there, right? Into the prime, this is the, what even was this board? Let me take another glance right here. This is the Yi comp, right? This is Yi bought with a challenger emblem, so we can see how we fare against the most popular comp in a meta. Seems that we're still getting a little bit mowed down since we did not have exactly our tank right in front of that Yi. The Yi unit absolutely busted by receiving extra buffs that I don't think a lot of players expected for him to receive at the very end. An interesting play that we are noting here, we're going to be transitioning our items on the Jax, considering the Jax to perhaps be even the stronger tank into this position. I would expect Maokai to be, if you're able to make these health items for him, Maokai is going to obviously be scaling with the extra health and the war. Something as Warmog should be quite strong there into this Z board right now. But the thing is, we have the Lulu that's able to jump between these Z casts. Z is able to greatly punish anything that has more of a single front target damage, but we have the extra splash, and now we're creeping our way into the top 4. Going to be probably rounding off the last item for our Milio off right now. Just debating if perhaps we want to be improving our situation, and we can find the double Nashers right now. Transitioning that death cap onto the Milio, but maybe we're evaluating extra damage. No, it seems that we're evaluating more casts from the Lulu rather than the pure damage front. Into a tempo meeple player, the general strategy with this meeple comp, how you would want to win is by securing a 3-star forecast, since the Veigar 3, especially if you're playing that variant, is not going to be just simply falling off the cliff into this stage. Rolling for what I would assume to be a Rastu, Brightrox 2. Rastu a considerable upgrade since his armor and magic resist, for example, increase goes from 2 to 2.5, and with all these extra tags it's added up a little bit. And he becomes as a single gold augment into the the Teemo reroll comp again on the same side as the Leona. Now let's see, we can see we're starting to chip. This is the thing, these solo frontline comps are going to be punished by this backline access, especially from the Lulu. Once their solo frontline is live, you just start chipping at their backline and you take out their carry, and then their tank is just going to be sitting there. Therefore, in these heavy reroll metas, comps that are able to succeed are the ones with extra bursts, as we have seen from Corki and even Corki able to just blow up these single frontliners, while comp like Lulu is able to get to that backline. Same goes for Vex, but obviously Fast9 has its own issues right now. So we can see why this comp has also, only despite the buffs been there, and also it's still the Milio buffs were significant, and we'll have to see how the Milio 3 performs. But now we transition our Warmogs to that Maokai, and should be having even more frontline stall going into the Darkstar board. Yeah, they have the Darkstar emblem, so they were trying to go for with the Darkstar emblem for that Kaiser 3, but have missed out. A little unfortunate on their side, since we have pulled out two 3-star 3 costs from the pool. Perhaps they were simply on the little bit more broke side due to taking a Damify, but still managed to secure a top 3. Dankmemes calling out bad beat simply on the chat, as he was unable to hit. So yeah, this is a bit of Darkstar emblem, definitely a possibility to be hitting, going for it Ilaoi 3 there, which is generally a contested unit in the meta, so you have to be scouting to ensure that you're able to go for that kind of a comp. But since they do not have their carry, we're able to clean them up. Their tempo has completely fallen up, and now we're going to be in a 1v1 against Upset Max with that Teemo 3. However, I believe that we do have a higher cap, we have our more unit value, and the Teemo is just not going to be really able to burst through our front line, since we have 2 of them upgraded to 3-star. Still not going to be leveling here, as we do not have the gold, obviously, but the rolling down for the Aatrox 2 is not going to be worthwhile. Our Lulu is able to get to their backline. This Leona is unable to complete stall long enough for herself, so we're able to clean it up and pick up a win. Well played game by Dankmemes right here, using the early orbs to establish direction in an encounter that otherwise does not provide it to you on 2-1 and 4-man augments. Then identifying exactly what kind of augments we need. Since we were a little bit lower in gold, we were able to secure that gold lead, taking the correct blessings from our gods, and then identifying that actually having a little bit more juice for our frontline is going to make us very durable. And from there, we were able to cruise, roll down at prominent times to secure our HP lead going into that stage 4, and that offered us to be taking that Evelyn's Blessing to greed for extra gold, which gave us sufficient gold to be able to spike on 5-1, as that's on pace with the 3-cost reroll, and then win out from there. I would like to thank you for watching, and I hope that you learned something new. The cheat sheets and my meta sheet are going to be available in the link down below, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a good one.